Morning, everybody. How you doing? Welcome back to the Spurs Talk Show. I am Sean Butler. Bugsy Malone is over here. It's freezing. I'm going to keep this video short. I hope you're all happy and healthy doing the things you love with the people that you love doing it with. Please do me a favour, guys. Smash the like button for me on the video, like you always do. It really helps the channel grow, helps to find new Tottenham fans and fans of other football teams that might appreciate the content. Hit the subscribe if you haven't already. And even if you have, can you double check you still are? Because people keep getting unsubscribed. Hashtag YouTube shenanigans. Hit the notification bell and drop a comment. Let me know your thoughts on today's topics. And guys, we've got a little bit of sort of transfer news, views and clues for you. Some that directly involve Tottenham, some that indirectly involve Tottenham, and some that could be just dream world scenario stuff. Let's start off with the youth talent, the young talent at Tottenham Hotspur, and some updates there. First of all, from what I've just heard, although I haven't been able to verify it since I've been out, JAPHET Tanganga is being recalled from loan from Augsburg in Germany. He hasn't played a single minute of football over there. As I say, I haven't actually seen the story, so if this is complete nonsense, I apologise, but someone just told me on the phone that that's happened, so I'm bringing it to you as I've just heard it. JAPHET Tanganga hasn't kicked the ball. He was taken over there by a previous manager, got injured when he first moved to Augsburg, and then during his rehab process, the manager lost his job. The next manager came in, of whose name I'm not entirely sure, and they pivoted to a different system, and obviously Tanganga hasn't got a look in. So he is coming home, apparently, and apparently Tottenham are looking for a new home for him, hopefully somewhere in the UK where he can get some minutes and see what he's about. Put himself probably in the shop window. I would imagine that most Tottenham fans probably by now are presuming that he doesn't cut the mustard for Tottenham and will have to pursue a career elsewhere. But listen, for the time being, we wish him well on his journey home, and then hopefully we can find a new slot for him somewhere, as I say, in the local environment to see what he's about, see if he can get his career kick-started. Next story is something that's got far more kind of interest and juice to it, I think, and that is ALFIE Devine. This morning we heard that he has been recalled from Port Vale on loan, League One Port Vale, where he has been really setting the world alight, or setting their world alight. You know, a lot of Port Vale fans have been absolutely blown away by his performances, and they wanted to keep him. He's doing very well over there. I think he's got 1 assist for them this season. And you've seen a lot of clips, no doubt, on Twitter of him pinging balls, Lord of the Pings, pinging balls all over the place, doing really, really good stuff. He's been recalled not to come back to Tottenham, but to join Plymouth Argyle on loan, where, of course, we already have Ash Phillips, another 18-year-old, and that's the Championship level. So essentially what Tottenham have, I guess, thought is that League One is not the right level for him, that Championship is. He's had 6 months at League One, proven that he's capable. Now let's get him into Championship football and let's really test the guy's talents. And Plymouth have said, yes, please, we'll take him. And so he'll be joining up with Ash Phillips, who, of course, if you will remember from last weekend's football, Ali McAnally on Sky Sports said, Merce, do you remember a long time ago I was telling you about a certain Kieran Trippier? Well, remember this guy's name, Ash Phillips, one of Tottenham's own. He's going to be a star. Morning. And let's hope that that's the case. Let's hope that Plymouth Argyle continue to use Ash Phillips and also continue to, or will start to, use ALFIE Devine in and amongst their starting 11. And let's see if this kid is the real deal. For me, guys, it's super exciting news. Super exciting for him, super exciting for Tottenham that, within 6 months he's proven what level he's probably right for at the moment. And we'll spend the next 6 months in the Championship. I wouldn't be surprised to see ALFIE Devine and Ash Phillips being brought into the first team next season and hopefully can compete for spots in and around the cup competitions. And depending on what level of competition we find ourselves in Europe, if we do, then hopefully we'll be able to get them some minutes in those games as well. Two really interesting players for the future, and maybe not the too distant future as well. So exciting times. And when you hear stories like that from ALFIE Devine, it makes you have to kind of reconsider your priorities around transfer dealings in the next 2 weeks and even in the summer. Obviously, we've been speaking a hell of a lot on this channel and everywhere else in the Tottenham community about the prospect of signing £50 million players like Conor Gallagher, or signing Calvin Phillips on loan, even though that looks more and more like he's going elsewhere. Calvin Phillips, that is. You know, I've been making the kind of my intentions known, my desires known, that I think with the FFP announcements that have come out over the last few days, and the kind of acknowledgement, I guess, that we all need to make that Tottenham, whether it's been a frustrating ride, you'd hope that the board and the ownership have always seen the wood for the trees and been preparing for a situation whereby there's opportunities that will present themselves once the FFP and the PSR, the profit and sustainability rules, finally have some teeth. And we've seen, obviously, Everton are looking likely that they might get a second points deduction in the same season. They're very unhappy. Their defence is going to be that whilst we've already been punished and dealt with for a previous 3-year period, because those points have been handed to us this season, it seems unfair to get a different 3-year period also affecting us in the same season. It's like a double jeopardy, and it seems unreasonable. Nottingham Forest, the other team that apparently have also fallen foul of their requirements within profit and sustainability rules, have got a defence which is that in order to try to protect the future sustainability of our company, of our football club, we turned down a £30 million bid that would have been inside the current financial year's detail in order to get a better deal to the tune of £18 million more, or 60% more, but that would fall outside of the PSR ruling and would sit in next year's accounts rather than this year's accounts. And so both of them have got some sort of reasonable defences, but ultimately I think the rules are the rules, and whilst the rules might be a little bit silly at times, if that's the way you want to think of it, then you know, these are the first 2 clubs, and I expect next year there to be several more, unless of course the rules change. And from what I've heard, but haven't been able to verify, guys, I have heard lots of places talking about the prospect of the rules being changed again in August around PSR. Not FFP. FFP is more of a UEFA thing, and obviously the rules around that are going to get tighter next year as the percentage of your revenue that you're allowed to spend on the combination, the aggregated combination of your player trading, your transfer, your trading fees, your wages, and your agents' fees and intermediary fees actually gets stricter and goes from 80% to 70%. And I think a lot more clubs will fall foul of that as it stands. Even some of the bigger clubs, I think 3 of the top 6 currently have ratios that are far above even the current 80% threshold. So we will see what happens there. But obviously my point being here that unless the rules are loosened again in order to stop you know, more and more clubs falling foul and getting points deductions, then Tottenham should be able to stand a chance of benefiting. And consequently, I'm not entirely convinced that I want Tottenham to go out there and drop, you know, significant sums of money on a player or players generally that, you know, I don't necessarily have 100% conviction in the value of. People like Conor Gallagher, they kind of divide the fan base. Some people, if you're listening to Chelsea fans, just for an example, some Chelsea fans see him as a workhorse that drives the ball forward and is the captain of Chelsea, and so, you know, clearly is doing a lot of things right. And then we'll lean into statistics like I think he's the only player in all top 5 leagues in Europe that has got, you know, I think it's 20 shots on goal, 20 key passes, 20 tackles, 20 interceptions, 20 this, 20 that, like who covers the entire full gamut of requirements from a midfielder in terms of attacking options and defensive options. And he's the only one in the top 5 leagues that do that. People that aren't a fan of Conor Gallagher at Chelsea and even in the Tottenham fan base will kind of say, well, look, he's a bit of he slows the ball down, he passes it sideways, he doesn't take on too much risk. And apart from having an engine, and what really does he generate? And in any event, for me, look, I'll always kind of lean into, if Ange does believe that he is the right guy for the gig, then I'll get on board it, because, you know, I can see the merit to the process anyway. I can see why people would think he's excellent. Me personally, I'm 50-50. I'm on the fence. But in any event, I'm rambling here, I feel like when there's so much opportunity that might be presenting itself in terms of clubs that are forced sellers in a few months' time, and certainly going into the future, I don't necessarily think it's right to pull the trigger right now. especially when it comes to midfielders, when you might just have an ALFIE Devine who is, you know, presenting himself as a solution maybe for next year. Now, it depends on what we do with Højbjerg. It depends on what we do with Lo Celso. Both of them are out of contract, you know, at the end of next season. I don't think Lo Celso will be offered a new one. His injury record is just, you know, unsustainably long. And Pierre-Emile Højbjerg, I think, you know, wants to go and play and become a regular and kind of instrumental and pivotal figure in a football team. And, you know, he's every right to feel that way. So if we can't guarantee him minutes and the majority of minutes at Tottenham, and he's not willing to be a participant in a process and a squad, then maybe you do kind of move him on. And that obviously would open up the space for two new places for two new midfielders. One of them, I would say, could be ALFIE Devine. I think the whole point of having this wonderful youth system that we've built is to find value from them eventually. Now, that's either in the first team at Tottenham Hotspur, or if not, then it's a way to raise funds. And the only way you're ever going to be able to see the value and raise the funds through the value is by seeing these guys play. But the Championship level is not the way you do that. So ALFIE Devine would need to eventually come back to the Premier League and hopefully do it at Tottenham and be good enough. And whether or not he's the long-term solution for Tottenham and will be here for the next 5-6 years, kind of irrelevant. The point is that we need to have access to the first team and allow them at some point to prove their worth. And if they are fully academy players that have no acquisition cost to amortise, then even if they're not ready for the first team in 2 years' time, but they've proven themselves to have value, you can sell them and put that against your FFP or your PSR. But if they are ready and they are great, then obviously you bring them in and they can deliver value to the first team and hopefully take us to that next step, that next stage of what we're trying to achieve. And so it's an interesting one, but for me, with all that's going on right now, I personally, I'm leaning into this idea that whatever Tottenham do for the rest of the window, I don't really want us to go out and spend a lot of money on a full-time, permanent 4 or 5 year deal for a player like Calvin Phillips or like Conor Gallagher. I'd much rather Tottenham, if they see the opportunity, if they see a situation that presents itself, I keep saying presents itself, but if they do see one that appears, then I think a loan deal would be the best solution right now, because I think there'll be better, you know, lower hanging fruit to pluck in the summer when teams have to reallocate and reorganise their books and their squads accordingly in fear of not being in breach of next year's PSR audits. Two players I want to talk to you about just to finish off the story. One of them is actually a player that Tottenham were linked with all of last summer, which was Gift Orban. Now he, if you remember, was a player that last season was banging in goals for fun over in Ghent, and a lot of Tottenham fans, myself included, were very much on board us going for him. We were looking for a striker. We were talking about the high demand, short supply kind of economics of that position, and we were all over it. But at the time, his club wanted 25 to 30 million pound for the player, and Tottenham didn't go for it. Now, obviously, you never know what might have happened had he come to Tottenham, but he did stay where he was for the first 6 months of this season, and he hasn't hit the ground running. It might have been a flash in the pan, or maybe he was in red-hot form and has come down to earth just a little bit, but he's still a very talented player. In any event, this morning the news has come out that he has joined Olympique Lyonnais for only £10 million, I think 13 million euros, which is, you know, less than half the price of what Tottenham were quoted for him just 6 months ago, which is a very interesting turn of events. Now, obviously, Lyon is a higher standard of football, and so I think he'll be one to keep an eye on. A Nigerian player, very hot prospect last year, hasn't hit the ground running, as I say, as much as he did last year this season. So one to keep an eye on, whether or not he gets back to last season's form or whether that was a flash in the pan and he finds a new level, will be one to watch. But obviously, you know, myself, I hold my hands up. I was very much interested and on board with Tottenham going after him. It didn't work out, and they've gone for a fraction of the cost. I would always trust Paratici and the scouts at Tottenham's opinion over my own for a player, and we'll see what happens. But I still believe that there's a really good player there, and I wish him well, and hopefully we'll get to see him play at the very highest level and see what this kid's about. Good luck to him. obviously one that Tottenham decided to move away from. Now, there's one other story, guys, that we've been talking about for a few months here at the Spurs Talk Show, and that is Antonio NUSA, Club Bruges Norwegian winger, Antonio NUSA, left winger, an absolute, in my opinion, classy talent that if you can get hold of him, by hook or by crook, I think this is a player that Tottenham, could really, really utilise in a bunch of different ways. And I think there might just be a player in there that can offer what Tottenham currently don't have in our forward options. He's a really tricky winger who loves driving, loves nothing more than driving direct at his opponents, and can create havoc. He apparently, according to Spurs Web, according to Sky Sports, Lyle, in fact, has been continued to be monitored by Tottenham Hotspur, and it might be something where we buy this guy and loan him back to Club Bruges for the remainder of the season. His stats last year, well, at the start of this season rather, were superb, and for an 18-year-old, I think he's got 6 goals and 3 assists. I think this season, I think that might be right. Maybe, or was it 3 goals and 3 assists? I forget. But he's done it in the Belgium league. Is that the Juniper Pro? I think it's called. And he's also done it in the Conference League qualifiers and indeed the Conference League. A brilliant crosser of the ball, very quick, very tricky, very direct, and comes in off the left-hand side. I think he would be a wonderful player for us to acquire. I'll put the stats up on the screen so you can see them. For someone so young to be given so much responsibility at a high level is impressive. And look, if he's not going to come to Tottenham, he's going to go somewhere that will find use and value in him. And for me, this is one of those deals where I think it's not going to cost you an absolute arm and a leg. If you can buy him and loan him back, and we will take him in the summer, he could be an eventual replacement for Sonny. Sonny's getting on, obviously, into his 30s now, so over the next 2 to 3 years, you're going to look to transition into the next generation of footballers on that left-hand side. And I think that you could also slot into the contract like a 25% sell-on fee or 20% sell-on fee to keep Club Bruges' interest and keep them incentivised to look to strike a deal. He does belong in a better quality of league. He will become a better player and he will be playing in a better league at some point. It's just whether or not he was to choose the Premier League or the Premier League was to choose him. And Tottenham, for me, do need help on that left-hand side. We speak about this all the time. I think that there are players that we have a lot of forwards at the moment that, none of them do really what we're looking for. We know that Manor Solomon might be a short-term stay at Tottenham. That comes across, or it came across to me as a cheap deal with something that where Tottenham could look to realise some value later down the end of the line. It looks like Ivan Perisic has played his last game for Tottenham, and Hijack Split are looking to bring him back. I've been speaking about that for months, and obviously, the jury's out on Brennan Johnson. Timo Werner deal might only be a 6-month thing, and we don't know how he's going to settle in, if he does at all. Sonny's getting on, as I said already, and Richarlison, there's links away from the club. So there might be a lot of transition, a lot of change in our forward line over the next 6 to 18 months. And for me, Antonio NUSA is a player that I would love to see come into Tottenham. You just get a gut instinct on players, and you can't always necessarily, judge a player by the quality of the opposition that they're playing in front of. But you can just get a look and feel and think this guy probably has the stones to do it, And I remember thinking that about Doku years ago when he was playing in France. I remember thinking about that when I saw Mo Salah years and years ago play for Tottenham when he was play against Tottenham when he was playing for the Swiss team. I think he scored a goal or got an assist in that game. I remember thinking there's a player there. Sometimes you just get a real feeling about certain players, and I think Antonio NUSA for me is one of those players that you get that idea that he's got the minerals to keep going and to become a really, really top player. So I'd love Tottenham to get him. But that's about it, guys. ALFIE Devine back to Tottenham, but then a short stay. He's going back out to Plymouth. Good luck to him. Keep an eye on Plymouth Argyle for the rest of the season. 2 Tottenham future stars are going to be playing there week in, week out. As for JAPHET Tanganga, don't know what the next step is for him, but hopefully it will be a more successful one than his German trip. And Gift Orban, keep a look on him. See what he does in Lyon. Maybe we missed one there, maybe we haven't. Morning, guys. Morning. And Antonio NUSA, let me know your thoughts. Do you want him? Should Tottenham go and get him? How should we structure any potential deal? Loan him back? Bring him in immediately? Let me know, guys. Like, subscribe and comment. And as always, bye-bye.